and welcome to the Coach and Benway podcast. I'm Coach Red Pill, joined as always by my co-host, Dr. Benway. And today we're going to do something like fun. We're going to talk about movies, but we're going to talk about guilty pleasures and underrated films, which we think are actually very closely intertwined. And Dr. Benway, why don't you start with the dichotomy between those two?
Well, it's interesting how this prompted a philosophical discussion amongst us. It's basically like Thomas Aquinas thinking through the logic of the magisterium of the universe level of quality we're getting here. So the idea of guilty pleasures, underrated films, right? And I think they're related, but there's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I always said underrated films would be things that people, the vast majority of the public thinks is bad, but you can make a logical, reasonable case to say, no, this is a good movie. You just misunderstood it.
Right. Exactly.
Guilty pleasure is it's bad.
Yeah. Exactly.
But you like it anyway.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well, also, I'd argue that there are some pictures that sort of like came out and never really clicked with an audience. But those of us who know movies say, this is a great picture. Because you and I, we've watched so many pictures that we can distinguish what's a great picture and what's a shitty picture, irrespective of the critical consensus. Because we know enough, we have enough baggage insofar as film is concerned. We've seen enough to be able to tell the difference, right? And so I want to kick off how do we do this? You want to kick off with underrated pictures first, or guilty pleasures?
Well, I'll start with guilty pleasure because I feel like it's the most embarrassing one, and I just want to. I'll just start with embarrassment. I won't start with my most embarrassing one. I'll save that to the climax.
Okay.
For me, the first movie that comes to mind for me, guilty pleasure, a movie I know is objectively terrible, but I like it anyway. The film version of Masters of the Universe. So that's the He-Man and Skeletor with Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, who could barely speak English.
I never saw it.
So here's the reason why I like it. Frank Langella plays Skeletor, and he plays it so fucking earnestly. Over the top, yes. But I mean, he's like, Frank Langella treated it like he treated fucking Dracula during that period of time when, in the late 70s, that he got really notable on Broadway, revitalizing the old play of the Dracula movie. He's very particular about the performance, how the cloaks he wore would roll against his body. Very consummate professional actor if you've seen him in his professional roles.
Yeah.
He did that for Masters of the fucking Universe while he's wearing this Skeletor mask. That makes it look, you can't even tell it's Frank Langella, but he was so adamant. It's like, I'm going to move this way. I'm going to sound this way. You better make sure that the cloak flows this way. It's a fucking kids movie made to sell toys.
Right.
That's all produced by the Canon Film Group, which is basically say, we make shit. That was their fucking motto, but it's so good for me, it's so good just because I love Frank Langella's performance. I think the attempt to reproduce all of that cheesy, almost like John Carter of Mars style, like sword and sorcery, but in space kind of thing. And I watched for Frank Langella. And in fact, what I loved about the movie, when I bought the Blu-ray of it, and in the interviews about the making of this movie, they said, Dolph Lundgren's performance was so bad, we actually made it kind of a Skeletor movie from his perspective, because we figured Frank could carry the movie, and Frank was more compelling. And, we'll make it his story. And it's a tragic story of how this misunderstood but dedicated man wanted to achieve something with his life, but the fucking Nazi Aryan beat him.
No, I have a bunch of guilty pleasures. Mine is Steel Magnolias. Oh,
that was going to be on my list too.
Okay,
I'm glad you brought it up.
Steel Magnolias, it is a schlock fest. It is basically the story about a bunch of women, middle-aged women, upper-class women, who hang out at this, they're in like the deep South, and they hang out at this hairdresser's. The hairdresser is played by Dolly Parton, and the women are Shirley MacLaine, Forrest Gump's mother. Sally Fields. And her daughter is
Olympia Dukakis.
Her daughter is played, Sally Fields' daughter is played by Julia Roberts. And Julia Roberts' character has like this kidney disease and shit. And she's about to get married. She's a diabetic. Right. And she's about to get married to like this young man who's just, fantastic and all the rest of it. And it's these women, and of course they're white, they're privileged.
They're Southern. What state are they in? Are they in Georgia or Kentucky?
Mississippi,
I forget. Mississippi. You're right. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I forgot. It was just like
it's one of the southern states. And,
but disassociated from any kind of like regionalism. It's just the South. And it's totally stereotypical.
Played almost exclusively by non-Southerners. Dolly Parton, I'm like pretty sure is the only real Southerner in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
All the rest are little Jewish women.
Yeah, Daryl Hannah.
Yeah. Daryl Hannah she's like she wants to be the beautician. Open a beauty parlor.
Yeah,
she's working for Dolly Parton.
Yeah, exactly. It is a schlock fest. It's guaranteed. It's a tearjerker. I cry over that fucking movie every time. I do. I don't have a problem admitting it.
What's funny is I have a slight personal connection to the movie. Well, my mother always watched it, but what's creepy is there's that scene at the end with Sally Field at the funeral. Mm-hmm. I won't say whose funeral.
Yeah.
And Sally Field looks exactly like my mother. Oh. Like in that scene, my mother looks exactly like that. And talks exactly like that. She's not Southern, but it's weird connection to me. But I also enjoy like the other thing you'll enjoy if you ever watch this movie. Shirley MacLaine plays a fucking irritable old Southern bitch, but in a great way. Not like, oh, I hate her. It's like she talks shit to everybody.
Yeah,
it's so wonderful. She'll. I think one of the Tom Skerritt is the husband of
Sally Field
in the movie. Yeah. And she, like every so often, she'll like just turn to him and say, "Eat shit and die, Roy," and just walk away. Yeah. Like because they have a big brouhaha of like pissing each other off, and they secretly kind of like each other, but they try to insult each other as much as possible. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
And, she has also a great line is like. She's like, yeah, I don't read book. I have no time to read books because if they're any good anyway, someone's going to make them into a miniseries.
Yeah, and she's just but they are all upper class people. The environment they move in is completely upper class. I mean, it's a movie that if it were released today, feminists would be out there picketing it, okay? Because it's like white bread. There are no black characters at all. I actually have noticed that there is only a single black couple in the whole movie, and it's an insert shot in the middle of a wedding. Like they had to throw that in just to make sure that okay, we got the black audience just in case. I mean, it is.
They could have easily been a cardboard cutout. They could have just been a cardboard cutout. That's how much they don't play a part.
And so far as the current politics is concerned, see. They're like two black people dancing, okay, and so it's like sort of like weirdly. Racist stereotype in the middle of the
They could have been selling fried chicken and watermelon. That's how much it is,
Yeah.
Oh God, I remember that. Like I said, women of a certain age love that movie.
Yeah,
it's that in terms of endearment they love because they both what each end of the decade, and it's like because it involves a fragile young woman that they come to
Shirley
love,
MacLaine,
and she comes to and Shirley MacLaine, she's the constant through factor. Everybody loved her, but there's a death in there, and my uncle brought this up with regards to terms of endearment, but it's true for Steel Magnolias too, because my aunt loves this movie. He always said for terms of endearment when the main character dies and he always sees that my aunt was crying, he says, I can just rewind the fucking movie back to when she's alive and you can be happy again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Steel Magnolias, it is, oh man, like I'm embarrassed to admit it. I mean, I come across like a big fat gay guy, right? But damn,
that's really good. But it's not as embarrassing as my most embarrassing guilty pleasure. But I'm saving that for later. I'm gonna give one that I actually thought like, should I put it under guilty pleasure or underrated?
Shoot.
And I lean toward underrated because I actually think there's a lot of good stuff going on there. The movie Clue. I really like. After the board game? They literally made a movie in the mid '80s.
Oh, I'm
after
thinking
the
of
board
Sleuth.
game.
I'm thinking. I got it confused with Sleuth. Yeah.
Oh no! This is by all definition. If you come into a pitch, to say like this is the movie I want to make, it's the cliche of how stupid could Hollywood be? It's like that board game Clue where you're literally different colored pieces trying to figure out if Colonel Mustard did it in the study with the candlestick. Yeah, that's a movie.
Yeah,
and it's like what the fuck? But think of the cast is amazing. You've got Tim Curry, Michael McKean, What's his face?
Look it up. Look it up.
Who-
Yeah, I mean, they're all good
yeah,
actors. Yeah, I don't remember.
Christopher Lloyd.
I watched it during the '80s, but it's sort of like and I just like moved on because like I guess like my super guilty pleasure is The Cutting Edge, the skating picture.
Well, I've never even seen that. Okay,
Oh,
so yeah,
yeah.
so the
Go ahead.
but yeah, so this is the cast list: Eileen Brennan, Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, Christopher Lloyd, Michael McKean, Martin Mull. John Landis, I think, co-wrote it, and it's literally the premise of the movie is that it's set in the 50s during the McCarthy scare, and they basically the premise is all of the people, the characters who in the game are the prospective killers of Mr. Body in the game. It's a character in the show. He's blackmailing all of these people. One is, and they're all associated with weird Washington D.C. politics. Like the Colonel Mustard character is being blackmailed for selling military secrets on the black market or military equipment on the black market. Mrs. White is being blackmailed for killing one of her politician husbands. Same thing for Mrs. Peacock. Professor Plum, played by Christopher Lloyd, is being blackmailed for basically diddling one of his patients. And, that's their motive for killing him. So they have to figure out who did it. And what's ingenious about the movie, even though it's kind of that postmodern, kind of thing, but I liked it, is there are actually 3 endings to the movie. If you watch it on home video now, you get all 3 endings, and they usually say, here's one way it could have happened, here's the other way, but here's how it really happened. When they showed it in the theaters at the time, there was only one of the 3 endings, and they randomly had it to each print. So you wouldn't know which ending that was actually going to happen.
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. And it's quite, it's funny because they do a really good job reproducing that feeling of the early 1950s, but also have that kind of Agatha Christie, what happened in this house in the wilderness, that, and this thing happened, you have to figure it out. But it also has that kind of humor. There's some stupid shit to it, but it's actually like legitimately entertaining. And I think it's getting more and more popular now. But I still think it's fairly kind of, what movie are you talking about? So I lean more towards underrated, but it's well worth checking out if you have a chance.
Well, I remember the Killed by Death. Okay, but that was a
Murdered by Death, and that's I like that one too.
Yeah, but I don't remember Clue, but I remember like Murder by Death. There was the vibe at the time that Clue was just a poor man's Murder by Death. And so because it had Peter Sellers, it had a bunch of actors, right?
In Peter Sellers in Yellowface, that's another great movie that he's like,
never
he's basically playing a Chinese guy. Yeah, he's like, and he played the Chinese guy in the way that was cliched, which was he wouldn't say pronouns like cow on wall speak or what meaning of this? He says, and Truman Capote is like in it as like the guy hosting the thing, and Truman Capote is completely lushed out and doped on drugs through this whole movie, and he's making fun of the Chinese guy who's played by a non-Chinese guy, it's so much fun in it, and like Peter Falk is in it.
Yeah,
Peter Falcon is playing basically your Humphrey Bogart character, and there's or Columbo, and his Eileen Brennan actually is in both Clue and that movie, and she's his assistant. And there's that great scene where it says why would you have a motive to kill the host? And they said, the character's name is Sam Diamond, which is a reference to Sam Spade. But she says, he picked up Sam in a gay bar. And he says, no, I was undercover, goddammit. And she says, every night of your life for the past 16 years. He says, I hate them queries. And he just it's so much fun. It's not as great as you'd think. I think it could have been funnier, but it's similar to Clue, which was, let's make fun of these kind of what would you call them, like mystery story cliches and whatnot, and it's a lot of light fun. And well worth it.
Well, my thinking of The Cutting Edge is it's a romance between it's directed by Paul Michael Glaser, of Starsky and Hutch fame, and written by Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy, the guy who wrote the Jason Bourne pictures, right? And it was made in what was it, in 88? Something like that? 92. Okay, so it's basically about this very temperamental girl. She's like the daughter of a very, very rich man, right? She has dreams of pair skating, right? Of being an Olympic champion in pair skating, figure skating, right? And she is just so temperamental and difficult to work with that every partner quits on her. Okay, now there's this hockey player who's just like the best skater in hockey, but he gets like some eye injury or something like that, and he simply can't see out of he doesn't have any peripheral vision, and therefore he can't play hockey anymore because he'll always be checked on that side, and that'll be that, right? And so he's got like no prospects. He's Canadian. He's a poor farm boy kind of thing. So this Russian trainer convinces him to go down and train to be a figure skater with the girl. The girl is played by Moira Kelly, right? And the guy is played by D.B. Sweeney. Now, these were actors who in the 80s and early 90s were like big, and they sort of faded from the scene. The picture is like this cliched romance, right? And of course, at the end, they get the gold. And in the Olympics, they win the gold in figure skating, and they do like this really dangerous thing. What is it called? It was like this move, the Tchaikovsky move or something like that. I mean, and before they realize they love each other. Oh yeah, well, it doesn't say here in the Wikipedia what was the name of the move, but call it the Tchaikovsky move or Sakharov move or something like that. It was like a Russian move that was like a death spiral, and anybody who tried to do it, somebody would always die or was so dangerous. And of course they do it, and they win the gold, and they fall in love at the exact moment that they win the gold, and it's just like stupid and cheesy and so cliched. I mean, so by the numbers. It's like it was made in 92, but it's like a prototypical 80s romance, and for some reason, it fucking works as a movie. It works beautifully. You're always entertained. You're always like, oh, what's going to happen next? Even as you know what's going to happen next, even as the beats of the story are coming from like a mile away, you know what is going to happen. There is no uncertainty. I suppose this is what, the comfort food. This is what it is. It's comfort food, and it's sentimental and silly and not particularly well directed, to tell you the truth. I mean, not like groundbreaking. It's journeyman filmmaking, okay? But there's something about it that I find just deeply compelling. That I can sit there, I can catch it in the middle, I can catch it at any point, and I'll just sit and watch the whole thing because it just works. You know what I mean? And that's the magic of film.
Well, what's funny is this movie went completely over my head. I had not even heard of this. In fact, I think of. I mean, I maybe if I watch it, I'll recognize it. But like Terry O'Quinn is the only name that I recognize outside of what you had mentioned. Tony Gilroy as the writer. I'm like, this completely bypassed me. I'm like, what the hell is?
You're missing something good. The cutting edge. You got to see it. It's
the cutting edge. It's a perfect shitty title too.
Oh yeah. It's like this mediocre film on every level. It is mediocre. Okay. It's undistinguished in every way, but yet it works, which I find fascinating, okay? That's the thing. I mean, you have to keep an open mind, okay? It was made in 92. That's nearly 30 years ago now. And so insofar as, certain the sets and what have you, sure, it looks dated and all the rest of it. The cinematography looks dated. The look of the film looks dated, sure. But it's never boring. Now, this is really hard, and I think that people don't give enough. A lot of filmmakers today don't give enough issue of this because they think that they have to cut things quickly. No. You don't have to cut quickly. You just have to be interesting. And this movie is entertaining the whole way through. Okay, there is not a single scene or a single moment where you're not wondering, what's going to happen next, what's going on. This is cool. This is fun. It grabs your attention every second. I think that's why I admire this picture in a way. I haven't seen it in a number of years. Maybe my tastes have changed radically, okay? But I remember watching it, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I remember thinking to myself, man, this is fucking good, because I was looking at it from a strictly entertainment point of view. It always delivers. Yeah, that's like... That's one of my guilty pleasures. You got another one?
Well, I got a good pair for that in the sense that like late 80s, and I think I lean this towards underrated as opposed to guilty. I actually think it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. To me, the best neglected buddy cop movie / action movie of the 80s is Tango and Cash. I really like Tango and Cash.
Yeah, I remember that picture. Sure, yeah. But I can top you on that one. Tequila Sunrise. That was a better.
Oh, I, I think you've recommended it to me before, but Tango and Cash, for those of you who don't know, it's basically
Kurt
Sylvester
Russell.
Stallone and Kurt Russell as the buddy cops, and they're going against basically the great over organized Bond villain level drug dealers of L.A., which is the organization's run by Jack Palance.
Yeah.
In this most Jack Palance-esque role, and his two deputies are James Hong and Mark Alemo, who are known, for those of you who like these kinds of things. James Hong played Lo Pan in Big Trouble in Little China, and Mark Alemo, for those of you who like Star Trek, is Gul Dukat from Deep Space Nine. So you have three very well-known villains for schlocky people like me, who being dealt with by like I said, Sly Stallone, Kurt Russell, and you have little side actors like Robert Zadar and I think Brian James playing side villains, and it's just a fun little action movie that's so 80s. You can't, like, the synth music, the one-liners, all sorts of things, but it's directed by a legitimately great filmmaker. It's directed by Andrei Konchalovsky, I think, who is basically Nikita Mikhalkov's brother. And like the Mikhalkov family in Russia is one of the noble aristocratic artistic families. And he was famous for the film he made in the U.S., another underrated film, Runaway Train. He directed that one. And Tango and Cash is just like, I think, like the perfect summary of like what were the 80s buddy cop movies like. I would just say that's it. It's cheesy enough and it's but entertaining.
That's still cheesy. The one I would focus on is another Kurt Russell picture, which was with Mel Gibson, the Tequila Sunrise. That was written by Robert Downey, written and directed by Robert Downey, and Town, sorry, and it was shot by Conrad Hall, and it is one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen. It's with Raul Julia, and it is just an incredible picture that is severely underrated, that people don't pay enough attention to it. But the performances are electric. I mean, the chemistry between the three actors, because it's Mel Gibson and Kurt Russell and what's her name? Oh God, she's slipping my mind here. The woman from Scarface.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Sorry about that. Mental burp. Michelle Pfeiffer, I mean, they're magnetic. And the thing is, see, it's basically a love triangle. And basically, it's about one character, Mel Gibson, who's a drug dealer. He sells cocaine, and he's very good at it. And he's a coke dealer. He's trying to get out of the business, typical. And his best friend is Kurt Russell, who is like an assistant district attorney or something like that. And his job is to chase guys like Mel Gibson. And they were friends. And what happened was that they were both in Mexico back in the day, and they were both at the beach. And it turns out they were both smoking dope. And Kurt Russell went for a swim. And while he was on a swim, the Mexican police, did a sweep through the beach and caught Mel Gibson with the pot and shipped him to jail. And that's where he got to be a drug dealer. Okay, and but they're best friends, and what's fascinating is that those two actors have incredible chemistry. I mean, it's unbelievable, because there's this scene where they're arguing in a restaurant, and they start to bicker and argue, and all of a sudden you realize they're siblings. They're like brothers. Okay, there's a chemistry and ease of the interaction that it's not just like two professional actors playing their parts. They sort of like transcend it, and they both just like it's so beautiful to see it. It's because it's like watching two really, really good musicians going at it. Okay, it's always a pleasure. Okay, and
I'll tell you my take on that is, as much as I would want to mostly see that for Mel Gibson and Kurt Russell, honestly, it's Raul Julia is the only reason I'm going to go see that.
Well, that's the other thing, because Raul Julia plays a role. He is electric. He is fucking electrifying, okay? And by the way, the picture has one of the biggest, most shocking reveals. I remember when I saw it, I was like really shocked. okay, I'm not. I don't want to say any more. But Michelle Pfeiffer, for instance, she has the range that she shows in this picture is remarkable because she plays this hostess. She's the co-owner of this very shishi restaurant called Valinari's, and Mel Gibson goes there all the time. And the cops are wondering, well, why does he go there to that restaurant all the time, right? And drugs are going down, because they're positive. Oh, and it's played by what was the name of this great character actor who passed away, who was in Sling Blade, and DB Walsh was it?
JT Walsh.
JT Walsh, right? Him. He is a cop who's obsessed with Mel Gibson because he's positive that Mel Gibson is like doing drugs in the restaurant, right? And the reason Mel Gibson is going to the restaurant is because of Michelle Pfeiffer, because she is the co-owner of the place. Her character is Joanne Valinari, and the place is called Valinari's, and she is the co-owner with her brother, and she is the hostess, right? And when she's playing her role, she's just so smooth and slick, right? But then in other moments, you start to see the vulnerability of the woman, and also her humor. And it's a remarkable performance because she shows so much range. And that's like, wow. And she's the woman that you could see would be intensely attracted to both of these guys. And it's just really a really great picture that, sadly, it came out in '88 and people didn't pay enough attention to it, I think, because they thought it was very slickly made. The Connie Hall cinematography is beautiful. It's gorgeous. But it makes the whole thing look a little too slick, which is sort of like the point of the movie, that all of the characters present this very slick facade, but underneath it, they're very different people. It's a really great underrated picture, I think.
I would go see that. In fact, now that you've mentioned Raul Julia, I wasn't planning on discussing this, but this is totally in like the guilty pleasure mode. And I would recommend you don't even see the movie straight. I would recommend you see it through the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode that was made of it.
Uh-huh.
Raul Julius did this made-for-TV PBS program in the early 80s called Overdrawn at the Memory Bank. And it is basically like a really, really, really bad science fiction short story.
Mm-hmm.
So but it's like early Matrix stuff. So the premise is in a future dystopian world, basically the world is run by two corporations that are rivaling each other. Raul Julia plays a character named Aram Fingal, and it's the most Jewish name ever, and it's Raul Julia. And the joke they even had on Mystery Science Theater, it's like, yeah, Aram Fingal from San Juan, Puerto Rico, kind of thing. So he's a programmer at this place called NovaCorp Corporation. He's literally just monitoring weather data, and to pass the time, he scrolls up cinemas, which is basically saying he watches movies when he's bored. And his favorite movie is Casablanca. Well, the corporation finds out about it and said, "Oh, you're fucking around too much. You have to have a mandatory rehabilitation at what's called like a Doppling Center." And all that means is they take his consciousness, put it in a computer program. He pretends he's a fucking monkey to play around for a while. And then, he's supposed to come out refreshed. Well, during this, he manages to fuck with the programming whilst in it and populates himself in Casablanca. And he's playing basically the Humphrey Bogart character, but he's also playing himself. It's so stupid and so poorly made, but it's like so bad it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I really recommend, if you do watch it, watch the MST3K Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode of it, because you're just going to see like, this is a legitimately good actor who at this time was already known for being good.
Yeah.
And it's like, how the fuck did he get into this? And he's acting his fucking heart out.
Yeah. There was a thing about Raul Julia was that he was an exceptional actor, and he always gave 100%. He did the Mario Brothers picture, I think, and even in that picture, which I think is his last picture. Yeah, he.
No. He was Street Fighter was his last picture.
Yeah.
And he's playing M. Bison. Basically, M. Bison, for those of you who know the game and the anime around it, is this hulking, gigantic, overbuff military creature.
Mm-hmm.
And Raul Julia is playing this as a man dying of cancer.
Yeah.
Basically, and he's so thin and gangly, but he's like, fuck it. My kids love Street Fighter. I'm going to be Bison for them, and I'm going to make them happy, and I'm going to give this goddamn performance.
Yeah.
And he does.
Yeah.
And it's a bad movie, but you love Raul Julia.
Well,
Everything Raul Julia did, I want to see.
Well, the Addams Family Pictures, half the pleasure was watching.
He was so good.
Yeah, he was
so good.
Brilliant. I mean, it's a real tragedy that I passed away. But I wanted to move into another picture that this is an underrated picture that I have that I think a lot of people are going to, just shut off the podcast now and take their MP3 player and throw it in disgust when I say this. I think one of the most brilliant pictures ever made, okay, and if you look at it in the right way, was Hudson Hawk, the Bruce Willis picture.
Oh no, I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked that you picked this one.
Yeah,
you should go into it.
Yeah, because Hudson Hawk. Okay, for those of you who don't know, in the I think it was the late '90s or something like that. Let me just look it up real quick.
Early '90s,
early '90s, like '91. The picture. What's his name? Bruce Willis was on the top of the heap, right? He'd just done Die Hard and I think Die Hard 2, and he just made a pile of money for the studios, right? So they let him do his ego project, the vanity project, the whatever project he wanted. And he decided to do Hudson Hawk. Now, he picked Michael Lehman to be the director of this picture. And it was produced by Joel Silver. Lehman was the guy who directed Heathers, okay? A very sensitive director, very intelligent director, but it's kind of weak, which I think was sort of like the point, because Bruce Willis came up with a story. It was a story that he and his story partner, guy called Robert Kraft, I don't know who he is, came up with it, and it was the story, and they passed it along to these screenwriters. The story is this. Hudson Hawk is a cat burglar, and he's just come out of prison, right, where he did a stretch because he was betrayed, of course, because he was such a good cat burglar that he was never caught, right? And Danny Aiello is his best friend, and what happens is that there's this crazy couple, these billionaires, played by Richard Grant and Sandra Bernhardt. And the story starts that, with a flashback to what's his name, Leonardo da Vinci, who was, in the middle of painting the Mona Lisa and doing a whole bunch of inventions and what have you. And he had come up with this device, this crystal, to turn lead into gold. But he realized that it was so dangerous that he had to separate the pieces of this crystal so that people wouldn't be able to do it. Because if anybody could turn lead into gold, who knows what might happen, of course, which is silly. But anyway, so Richard E. Grant playing it over the top, and Sarah Bernhardt playing this over the top psychotic billionaire couple, right? They found out about this, and they have figured out where the different pieces are hidden, and they are basically hidden inside different Leonardo da Vinci relics. Okay, and so they blackmail hire/blackmail Hudson Hawk into doing the job of getting these pieces together. And the Vatican knows about this, and they have this agent of theirs who's trying to stop him, and the agent is played by Andy McDowell. Andy McDowell is actually a nun in the movie, right? And they fall in love, of course. Hudson Hawk, the Bruce Willis character, falls in love with Andy McDowell's character, who's played by the nun, and hilarity ensues. The thing is, the picture is, I believe, the closest anybody's ever made to a Thomas Pynchon movie, even surpassing the actual adaptation of the Thomas Pynchon movie by P.T. Anderson. What was the name of that picture?
It was Inherent Vice.
Inherent Vice, right?
Which was itself, the book itself was a parody of Big Lebowski, anyway, for my money. But
yeah. But look, I think that the Inherent Vice, this picture, the cat burglars played by Danny Aiello and Bruce Willis, they would sing a cappella like these old standards, like Swinging on a Star or something like that, and that's how they would time themselves in their little jobs, and they'd almost do a little song and dance as they were doing the robbery, and all these robberies were very clever and all the rest of it, It was just this bizarre movie. Then came out, it bombed. I mean, it was catastrophic because it was a hugely expensive picture for the time. It was $65 million back in 1990, 91, okay? That's a lot of money back then. roughly twice that in today's. I mean, half. It would be twice that money in today's money. It would be 130, 150 million dollars. It grossed $17 million worldwide. I mean, nothing, a pittance. The movie was a huge bomb. And after that, they never let Bruce Willis decide anything insofar as the movie. He was always just hired for the roles, So anyway, I think that the movie is...
What's interesting about that...
You saw this picture, right?
Yeah, I saw it. I actually kind of liked it. It's funny. This movie in my mind gets lumped often with like Ishtar in terms of those vanity projects that really went off the fucking rails in terms of comedy.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that like Bruce Willis it's forgotten now how much Bruce Willis's career owes a lot to his comedic skills.
Yeah.
Before you even get to Die Hard, Bruce Willis first became known as the lead in Moonlighting, which was a TV show in the mid-'80s, him and Sybil Shepherd, that was basically about like a detective agency. Sybil Shepherd is a down and out actress who's like desperate for money, and she owns a bunch of assets that she's trying to deal with. One of them is this detective agency run by Bruce Willis, which is basically run as a scam. But the show is structured in a way of like a screwball comedy / fast talking comedy of the 30s with Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd, and they play so well off each other. And Bruce has a very excellent comedic timing in there.
Fantastic.
And so it seems fantastic timing. And this movie it's not exactly that, but it tries to capture that kind of skill that Bruce has.
Yeah.
And I think it does a decent job. I just don't think that the audience at the time were ready to accept something that tongue-in-cheek and complicated. Well, and yeah, it's funny and it's
what
silly.
Happened was
but,
that it's like Ishtar. Ishtar. I think it has flaws, but because there are parts of it that tries to take itself seriously. Hudson Hawk never takes itself seriously. It is a comedy the whole way. Because there were parts of Ishtar where it's sort of like it tried to be like stabs at being serious and came across and was like, oh, this is stupid. Whereas Hudson Hawk is committed. It's committed to the joke, which you got to admire. Because there is not one shot, not one scene where it ever tries to get serious. It just keeps on trying to be its weird little self. And I mean, like even in the architecture, the art direction of the picture, the building that they use for the what you call it, the name of it, they were Minerva Mayflower and Darwin Mayflower, right? And the Mayflower's building is this weird building, like out of the Conformist kind of, like
yeah,
brutalist.
I know exactly what you're saying.
It was just such a weird pic, insofar as art design and everything about it is just completely absurd and just stupid and ridiculous and brilliant. I mean, how can I put it? Every scene, every shot has something interesting in it. It's not just that it's expensively made, which it is, but it's interesting. And the characters, it's got James Coburn, it's got Richard Grant and Sandra Bernhard as the Mayflowers. It's got David Caruso as Kit Kat. He was the mute assassin, right? It's got just a bunch of really good actors because a lot of them, it's sort of like people that you don't know their names, but you've seen their faces, you know them. Everybody is just really good. And
isn't Steve Martin in it?
Steve Martin.
Oh no, it's a different Steve Martin.
Oh yeah.
But Frank Stallone is in it. Frank Stallone is
He's at the beginning of the. He was in the prison with him. Yeah, he was the guy yelling at him as he goes out. Yeah, look, it's fucking hilarious, the whole thing, and it's just it's kind of like it's weird because it's a picture that I think is just really really good, but everybody thinks it's awful. I'm definitely in the minority opinion, but the argument I would make is that first of all, it's always entertaining. It's always entertaining. There's not a second where it's not. I think that probably the problem with it is that there's a certain smugness that is a little bit annoying, because that's a problem with Bruce Willis. Sometimes he's so cool that he becomes smug. He's never been cool like Steve McQueen, who is effortlessly cool, unselfconsciously cool. Bruce Willis is self-consciously cool, and that easily slides into smugness, and that's a problem with the picture. It seems to me. There are some scenes that are just fantastic. I mean, like slapstick, and like when he falls out of the ambulance and he's strapped to a gurney, and he's going down the highway there in New Jersey, the New Jersey Turnpike, right? And he's like heading straight for the toll, and he like throws the change and makes it and goes through it. It's just so hilarious. And they're like, there are these girls in a car who are watching them, and they're driving at like 50 miles an hour. The girls are in the car. The guy is in a gurney, right? Going 50 miles an hour down the New Jersey Turnpike. And the girls say, they're laughing, are you going to die, mister? And it's just so absurd and so entertaining and interesting all the time. And it has that postmodern vibe of like anything can happen, because that's the thing I like the most about it. There's the sense that anything at all can happen, no matter how absurd. We might throw it at you, and they do. And that's
I appreciate movies about it, because it's I actually think I can top you in terms of the most Pynchon-esque movie ever made,
which is,
and it's similar to Hudson Hawk in terms of it's the type of movie, if you give to a marketer and they say, here, this is going to be successful, go market it. They look at it and they say, oh, fuck. How am I going to sell what this is? Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
Oh, yeah.
That is even more Pynchon-esque. And I hesitated to include it because I think people have come around to seeing how good it is.
Yeah.
But that was another movie. It's like, so for those of you not in the know, mid-'80s, Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Here's your lovely cast list: Peter Weller, John Lithgow, Jeff Goldblum, Christopher Lloyd, Vincent Schiavelli. Go down the list. The premise of the matter is Buckaroo Banzai, which is the Peter Weller character, is like the ultimate scientist / rock star / surgeon.
Yeah,
it's meant to be over the top. Like, he's good at everything he does, and it starts off at he's working on this experiment to basically, more or less, it's by accident discovers trans-dimensional transportation. Mm-hmm. And in so doing, he encounters aliens in this other dimension. They're the lectroids. There are two types of lectroids: the red lectroids and the black lectroids. The red guys are the bad lectroids. The black ones are the good guys. And in so doing, he discovers that there is a conspiracy of these black lectroids to basically, if not take over the Earth, at least try to fuck with it by rescuing their trapped comrades who are stuck in this alternate dimension by the black lectroids who've put them in there. And their leader, Dr. Emilio Lizardo, who was basically an Italian fascist scientist, but when he went through the dimension, he was taken over, like almost like possessed, by the leader of the red lectroids, John Warfin. I think that when in a Jamaican accent, which is what the black lectroids have, they can call him John War Fiend, like a war fiend, as that. And the premise of the story, what you find out, is that Orson Welles' broadcast of War of the Worlds wasn't really a fake or a prank pulled on people. He was actually noticing the invasion of the red lectroids of the United States, and they will all work in New Jersey at this place called Yoyodyne Propulsion Systems, which is a overt direct quote of Thomas Pynchon. Yeah. And what's great is, basically after all of this has been noted and Peter Weller's Buckaroo Banzai is aware of it. Basically, Dr. Lizardo, who, like I said, has been possessed and is in a mental institution now, realizes what's going on, and he gets rescued by his red lectroid friends, and they're trying to build their great spaceship. And he's basically pulling like a over the top Mussolini impression as he's trying. It's like, we would go home to the great voyage and seize power once again. It's like, where are we going? Planet 10, when? Real soon. And and hilarity ensues. I mean, It takes itself seriously enough, but not too seriously. Yeah. And you've recognized bits of this, like Wes Anderson has Galaxy Quest steals a lot from it. Wes Anderson's his end of his Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, when everybody's walking up the screen and they're doing their thing, that's directly quoted from the end of Buckaroo Banzai. So many great performances, so many, like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. It's like, but if you're hip and you're paying attention, you'll love it. But it's not a movie that you can easily articulate what's going on. It's like you got to go with the vibe, and it just works so well. Like Hudson Hawk, frankly, they feel like of a pair.
Yeah, I remember Buckaroo Banzai. It didn't have that big of an impact on me. I don't recall why. Probably because at the time, a lot of the references just went over my head. And I haven't seen it since it came out, to tell you the truth, back in '84. But I remember the vibe of it. It was just like wacky, okay? It was just like weird. But here's the thing. What's interesting is that I wonder who decides to make these pictures, because nobody's going to go see them. They're too weird. I'm looking at the numbers on Buckaroo Banzai. It had a $17 million budget, and it only raked in $6.3 million. And that's a loss. I mean, remember, box office is what's gotten at the box office. The actual producers get half, if not less, of that sum. So they must have gotten maybe $2 to $3 million. I mean, $15 million loss on a $17 million picture. That must have fucking hurt. But there's that. How can I put it? Hudson Hawk was never going to be a success. Just conceptually, it's going to be a failure. You know that it is just not going to fly with the audience, and yet they made it anyway. I don't quite understand how that happens. Okay, because like just from the get-go, there are some stories that you're like iffy about, like Star Wars. Star Wars. If you'd told somebody what the pitch is, and of course it didn't exist, you'd say to yourself, no, I don't think that's going to be a particularly good picture or a successful picture. It's going to be a little bit, it won't quite fly. But it did. Maybe that's the thing, that there are some pictures that, beforehand, lots of pictures that beforehand, they think they seem a little too weird. But after the fact, after they succeed or fail, it's obvious. But I don't know. You see what I'm saying? That sometimes
I think, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think what sometimes happens with these weird movies is that you just have the luck of convincing one guy powerful enough to just say, yeah, just push it through.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at like the development of Buckaroo Banzai. So the writer and director, the writer is Earl Mac Rausch and the director is W.D. Richter. They knew each other at Dartmouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as time went along, they both were coming to LA. They knew the story was kind of going and they liked it. And I think Earl McRock wrote like a number of stories with this character.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, they were looking for projects to do, and each had like a little bit of success here and there. And I think it finally got to like, I think that one of the producers at MGM UA, and this is at the time when UA is trying to dig itself out of the Heaven's Gate fiasco.
Mm-hmm.
And, they just convinced one producer to say, you know what, I like this. Let's take a risk on it. And, it's like if you keep the budget under a certain threshold, I think, it wasn't cheap. I think it was 17 million when it came out. So expensive, but not like very expensive. You can kind of get away with certain things, but, you don't have all of these apparatuses kind of double, triple, and quadruple checking it. You can sometimes bypass it. And I think this was one of those movies that did that. I think for Bruce Willis, they figured, the calculation was, hey, Bruce brings in money. We'll take a risk on Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that was it. Well, the other one famously like that was Last Action Hero, which is also another one of my sort of like guilty pleasures / underrated
I like
pictures.
It. I think it. I don't understand why people hated it. I thought it was clever. Very clever.
It's that's the problem. It's too clever and too self-aware. It's hard to lose yourself in it. It's a more intellectual pleasure. It's a movie that people who like action movies, who are really into it, enjoy, but it's the kind of movie that people who are casual watchers hate because you can't lose yourself in it. It's sort of like the issue with modern art. If you're really into modern art, if you're really into art itself and the technique and the whole thing, you get it. You're like fascinated by it. But if you're just a casual art goer, museum goer, you're like, what the fuck is this? It's all just splotches. Who cares? This is stupid. You see, it's that distinction there, okay? And
for those, just a quick, go ahead.
No, I just want to say that see, in paintings, it's not that big of a deal because you're just making a painting, right? But for a movie, this was an expensive fucking picture, and it broke, it nearly broke Sony. It was like a disaster. This was a disaster for everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know, just the précis of that is a kid who likes movies, loves Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, gets a magic theater ticket from a guy who knew Harry Houdini, and it turns out that ticket actually allows him to enter the film world,
Right.
and he enters the world of an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and it's as ridiculous of all of the rules of an action movie. The kid within that universe tells Arnold, like, this is what's going to happen. It's very predictable, and all of these things do happen. And then eventually he takes Arnold out of the movie world into the real world, and when he gets shot, it's not like a flesh wound, it's like a mortal fucking injury.
Yeah.
The villain in that movie is from
Is Charles Dance.
Charles Dance from Game
of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Now there's a great scene if you really think about what's going on. Like, Charles Dance is the hitman villain in the movie. He enters the real world and he's like wondering what's going on, and just to prove something to himself, he just calls a guy randomly on the street, shoots him dead in the middle of New York City, and he's just looking at his watch waiting, and he shoots him again. No response. He says, "Excuse me, everyone, I just killed a man and I want to confess."
Yeah.
And everybody just tells him to shut up down there.
Yeah.
And the whole point was, like, the real world is unpleasant, grim, and shitty.
Yeah.
You need to get back to the to the movie world where things have structure and order.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a clever movie.
It's exceptionally clever, but that's the problem with it. That's why people avoided it, because you go to the movie to escape from the randomness of life and get structure. Whereas this movie is rubbing your nose in the fact that the real world is shitty. That scene, to me, and I remember it's a remarkable scene, actually, because at the time it seems sort of like funny and weird and what have you. By the way, it's directed by John McTiernan, who did the whatchamacallit,
Predator and Hunt for Red October and Die Hard, original Die Hard. Yeah.
Yeah, an exceptionally good director. I mean, let's face facts. I mean, whatever his legal problems might have been, the guy just knew what he was doing. That scene is a remarkable scene. It is a chilling scene. And that's a scene that I think sort of like captures the problem with Last Action Hero. Because you go to a movie to escape the reality. When the movie is showing you how absurd that is, it just totally breaks the spell. I think intellectually, Last Action Hero is firing on all cylinders. And it's precisely because of that people avoided it in droves. Because, I have on my list here a couple of guilty pleasures, which Commando and Predator, Schwarzenegger pictures, which is unsurprising. I grew up in the 80s, right? Conan, Commando, Predator, they're all cool. He's a big, brawny guy, and it's absurd. All kinds of crazy shit happens that in the real world would be impossible, right? And you lose yourself in that, and you enjoy it. But Last Action Hero shoves your nose in reality in a way that is just deeply unpleasant. And yeah, sure, you think that you want to go back into the world of the movie, but you go back into the world of the movie and you recognize how unreal it is. And you don't have any suspension of disbelief. That's the problem. Right. You know what? There's one of my favorite scene, by the way, Mercedes Ruehl plays the boy's mother, single mother.
Yeah.
And there's this fantastic scene between Arnold Schwarzenegger and her where they're having coffee. And they're just chatting and having a lovely time, And it was just so incongruous. And again, that totally shattered the idea of Arnold Schwarzenegger being the last action hero. You know what I mean? It was just, yeah. Oh, and that horrible, horrible scene when he talks about how the death of his child haunts him all the time. Because in the movie,
yeah, but what's great because he talks. There's a scene where Schwarzenegger talks to the character, and the premise of this character, like a lot of action heroes, he's motivated, and he's motivated by his son was killed, thrown off a building by a psychopathic killer, played perfectly by Tom Noonan, by the way.
Yeah.
And this motivates his character. He's fucked up because of it. And he meets Arnold Schwarzenegger and he says, "Oh, this, like this and everything." And the character says, "I have to live through my fucking son's death all the time. You've caused me nothing but pain." Because what you confronted with is the reality of the fiction, right?
Yeah.
The fiction, by virtue of this magical conceit, is allowed to realize, I live in a universe in which I exist. Thank you for reminding me every fucking day that I have no son left.
Yeah.
So you could make some money.
Yeah.
And it's like that, yeah. And these are people who are going to see a fucking Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah.
You think they're going to be confronted with that? Because that's guilt by association on a certain level.
Yeah, it's heavy shit. It's heavy shit, you know, and that was what was, you know, just remarkable about the picture, that the lack of self-awareness of the people making it. You know, they didn't realize that the picture, The Last Action Hero, is a downer. Okay, you don't realize it, but it is, because it's crashing the film world against the real world, and showing up how the real world is shit and the film world is fake. It's in a weird way, it's the ultimate critique of Hollywood. You know, I mean, it really is.
Well, it's and we may be giving across like this movie is just so dour, but it has the funniest sequence of Arnold Schwarzenegger ever put on film. And that is Arnold, the kid is watching, you know, he loves these Arnold movies, but then he's in school watching the Laurence Olivier version of Hamlet. And so in boredom and in reverie, he envisions what Hamlet would be like if Arnold Schwarzenegger was Hamlet. And it's basically, it's absurd. Like, it becomes an action movie. You know, it defies the premise of Hamlet as an inactive character of self-reflection. And it's just Arnold going around like, you know, hey, Claudius, you killed my father. Big mistake. He throws him out a fucking window, and then it's like, you know, he does like, and then all of a sudden he's on a horse with a machine gun, killing all these medieval guards in medieval Denmark. And then the scene ends like he's on a horse. He has a cigar in his mouth. He takes out a Zippo lighter and says, "To be or not to be, not to be," and the whole castle explodes.
Yeah.
It's the best action sequence ever filmed. The funniest thing you will ever encounter.
Yeah.
You can find it online. I guarantee you find that clip online. There is great humor in it. Or there's another scene where F. Murray Abraham is in it, and the kid knows it's F. Murray Abraham. It says, he's clearly the villain. It's like, well, how do you know? It's F. Murray Abraham. He killed Mozart. What do you mean? You know, Amadeus it won 8 Oscars. And they said, and Schwarzenegger goes to Murray Abraham as a character in the film. He's like, you said you killed Mozart. Who? Mo who? Zard. And his response is like, I kill a lot of people. I can't remember.
It was very, very funny. Yeah. I mean, it's a movie that gives you a lot to think about, like another one, but now it's sort of like everybody talks about it, which is Starship Trooper. But I don't want to talk about it because it's been talked to death, whereas nobody talks about Last Action Hero or Hudson Hawk. Those two pictures are the ones that are like, yeah, that's pictures that bombed, that flopped, that everybody hated them. And you look at them and you're like, the people making these pictures were really fucking clever. Because, like, look, I look at Hudson Hawk and Last Action Hero, and I think of Heathers. And Heathers, the same thing. It was a very, very intelligent picture. And you think to yourself, you know, just a few little turns of the knob here and there, and it would have been a disastrous picture, right? Oh, by the way, another guilty pleasure that I also think is a great picture is Revenge of the Nerds, the original Revenge of the Nerds.
It's been a long time since I saw that.
You gotta see that.
Long time, so I can't comment on it. But I, as a phenomenon, I'm aware of it. Yeah. You know what's funny? Before we leave those postmodern pictures, what's interesting to me is that, you know, all of those films, and they usually came around at, like, let's say the late 80s, early 90s, primarily early 90s. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they really started the self-referential stuff, but in an entertaining way. But in retrospect, there's only one film that really gets credit for it, and it's much later than these movies, and it's within the horror genre. The film I think that's mostly recognized as, you know, the self-awareness of film is Scream.
No, yeah, but no, it's the first successful one. The first successful.
It's the most successful one, but like we already talked the 2 films that already did it, and Wes Craven himself already did it with New Nightmare, which is basically, it's a film about the making of.
My thinking is that that's because it was the first successful one. It's sort of like the superhero movies. See, everybody says that the current crop of superhero movies started with X-Men. That's not true. They were making superhero movies. X-Men was the first genuine blockbuster. But before that, there had been Blade and a whole bunch of other superhero movies in the 90s and the 80s. I mean, because what happens is that everybody seems to think that between Superman in 1980 and X-Men in 99 or 2000, was it? that there was like no superhero movies. There were superhero movies all the time, but people just remember the successful ones.
Right.
The Hudson Hawk and Last Action Hero, especially Last Action Hero, were supremely self-aware as to what genre they were playing in, and they were very intelligent and very pomo. But the problem is that that kind of intelligence and that kind of sophistication just goes against the instinct of most casual moviegoers. And remember, most moviegoers are casual moviegoers. They're just going there for a laugh and have a good time and to forget about their troubles for a bit. And I remember that Charles Dance scene. It really had an impact on me when I saw it. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is really heavy shit. And also the kid. When that whole sequence about his son, and he has to live with the fact that his son had died. And at the time, of course, I was a kid myself, in the sense I was like 20 something. But now, as a grown man, I mean, at the time it had an impact of me, and now as a grown man with children of my own, it would have an even bigger impact of me. It would make me not want to watch it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the problem with the picture. But anyway, there are a couple of other pictures that I wanted to talk about. These are pictures that are brilliant, but not enough people talk about them. They sort of like they're underappreciated. It's not that they're underrated. Everybody recognizes that they're brilliant, but people don't talk about them enough or think about them enough. Top of my list is The Limey, the 1999 picture that Steven Soderbergh did. And also, well, in that same genre is or that same director rather is Out of Sight. But especially The Limey. I think The Limey is one of the best edited pictures I've ever seen. It's just incredible insofar as the editing is concerned. And I think that the performances are brilliant. Everything is great. You remember The Limey?
I actually never saw it, and it's a shame because I like Steven Soderbergh. I like Terrence Stamp a lot.
Yeah. No, look, for those of you who don't know, The Limey is basically about Terrence Stamp, who plays this thief who just came out of prison, right? And he's British, of course, and he goes to L.A. because he's looking for the man he believes murdered his daughter. Because the word is that his daughter died in a car accident, and he doesn't buy that for a second. So he goes to L.A. to find the murderer and settle scores. It's a revenge picture, right? And he hooks up with Luis Guzman, who's a taxi driver, right? He's a taxi driver who also did time in prison, right? And he was friends with his daughter. And it's so funny. It's so L.A. because, at one point, Terrence Stamp this is at the beginning of the movie, he's asking Luis Guzman, well, how did you and my daughter know each other? Because it's obvious, because she was this very, very attractive young woman. And Luis Guzman, all due respect, is Luis Guzman, right? And on top of that, he was a convict, right? And so he has this, and Luis Guzman gives the best, most LA reason for these two people who never would have met, why they met. He says, oh, we were in acting class together.
Of course they would, yeah.
It's LA, of course. I mean, and that answer, just toss away line, it's just like obvious, okay? And the whole movie is so LA. Okay, he hooks up the Limey, the Terrence Stamp character, hooks up with Leslie Ann Warren, who's this acting coach. Who she used to be a big actress, and now she's just an acting coach because that's the work. And she mostly handles child actors. And she was the teacher at the acting class, right, where Luis Guzman met his daughter. And eventually he finds out that his daughter's boyfriend was a guy called, played by Peter Fonda, okay? And he was much older. And you realize that, Peter Fonda is like this music producer kind of guy, and he's sort of like they say, he rides the zeitgeist. That's the expression that they use. And something happened, okay? And it's not too clear why, what happened, okay? But, the Limey wants to find out what's what, and he does. And it's fundamentally a simple story. It is incredibly well edited. The editing of it is just, it's remarkable. I mean, people talked about it at the time when it came out because it was completely unorthodox because the shots, you see shots, okay, and you hear dialogue, and you don't know where the dialogue is coming from or what time is the shot that you're looking at. And because, for instance, you see the limey sitting in an airplane, and he has this weird expression, and you don't know what's has the story happened already, or is it starting? Okay, there are scenes. For instance, there's this long conversation between the limey and Leslie Ann Warren. I mean, Terrence Stamp's character and Leslie Ann Warren's character, and it's one conversation, but it takes place in like 2 or 3 different locations, and it keeps flipping between the locations. Their interior in her apartment or exterior walking down the street. The conversation is fluid, right? But it hopscotches, between these locations. It's like they're walking along the beach at some point on like a boardwalk by the beach, and they're having a conversation by the gate of her apartment, and also in the interior of her apartment. And the conversation is just so interestingly edited. And what's interesting is that there's no rush. And yet, even though there's no rush, the editing is just quite, I would say, a leisurely pace, really. There's no quick cutting or anything of the sort. There's this, you can't look away. It's just like electrifying,
I really regret that I haven't seen this. I mean, well, first off, I think Steven Soderbergh is one of the rare, or at least was one of the rare filmmakers where he could simultaneously do, like, I'll do the big production for you, the perfect Hollywood film, and I'll do this experimental thing for me. And sometimes I'll mix it up. And I feel like this is one that I would have watched on that. And it also reminds me, it's similar enough to another film it feels kind of guilty for me, even though I think it is good. It came around the same time, 8mm. Did you ever watch that?
I didn't like that one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an uncomfortable movie. The premise of that is Nicolas Cage is a private investigator trying to figure out what happened to this teenage girl. What happens is a very wealthy man, I think in like Philadelphia, dies, and the wealthy man's widow basically discovers a snuff film in his archive. And she's like, the widow says, please tell me this girl's still alive.
Yeah.
And Nicolas Cage basically finds out she's not alive.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I thought it was overacted. I mean, it's not that it disturbed me. I just thought it was, Nicolas Cage, when he's watching the film, he's like squirming around and stuff like that. It would have been much more interesting if he'd have been like just totally stock still and just like a little flicker. I mean, had been minimalist. I thought that was the problem. I think that Nicolas Cage was the wrong choice, because that picture was directed by the guy who did Batman, Joel Schumacher, right? But there's another.
But Joel Schumacher is such a weird guy. Like, he'll do Batman with the nipples on the costume, but he'll also do Falling Down.
Yeah, exactly. There's another Joel Schumacher picture that I think is better than that, better than 8mm, and also severely underrated, which is Phone Booth. I thought Phone Booth was a remarkable picture. And just the economy of just using a single location. I mean, like, you guys know that my Coach Red Pill videos, it's just a single location. And so that's why I have a soft spot for films that use a single location effectively. And Phone Booth does that in spades. He's just in the phone booth for the whole picture. And the picture is 90 minutes long. And I think that is a very underrated ability to be able to make a single location interesting and have it so that things are compelling without having to go and do something. The compelling things come to him. I thought that was, frankly, a better picture than 8mm.
Well, TV calls them bottle pictures because you could literally film them in a bottle, kind of thing. I think the difference is I have the taste that accepts Nicolas Cage's acting style. I think it's a matter of taste to whether or not you. No. Because hold on a second. Because I also think, as a guilty pleasure, I love Nicolas Cage's overacting in Wicker Man, which is an objectively bad movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's really good. I mean, and also, like, Nicolas Cage was also in the one new movie this year that I actually legitimately really loved. I finally saw Mandy, which was the follow-up movie to the director who did.
How was it? I'm not going to see
the
it.
Black Rainbow. It's really good, exceptionally good. It really captures a sort of, now that's a Cormac McCarthy inspired tale of like madness in the American wilderness with synth music and vibrant color, and it's Nick Cage is very Nick Cagey in it, not like ridiculous, but certainly cagey. And I just really approve of that style, and I think it worked in 8mm. It's odd because it's still Nick Cage, and you just don't. You're like, oh, it's like Nick Cage. You don't think of it's an investigator played by Nick Cage. It's like, oh, Nick Cage happens to be an investigator today, which is fine. In some instances, I think that's fine enough. I think 8mm works that way.
Well, the two pictures that I would always pair, even though they were made by different directors, is Jackie Brown and Out of Sight. I think that those pictures are underrated, but I think that I think that nobody who knows films ignores them, because people ignore The Limey, which I don't understand, but people don't ignore Out of Sight or Jackie Brown. They weren't commercially successful, but they're remarkable pictures. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I was going to say more about them, but as I'm realizing I'm talking myself out of discussing them in detail, because they are pictures that, everybody who knows films, American films, knows Jackie Brown and knows Out of Sight, knows the Michael Keaton's dual role. He plays the same character in both pictures, and he plays them of a piece. It fits. It fits in a way, because what's interesting is that not only does he play both characters, the same character in both pictures, but he plays different facets of the same character in the two pictures. Because his role in Jackie Brown is that he's the cop. He's the ATF agent. He's trying to bring down the Samuel Jackson character. Whereas in Out of Sight, he's the boyfriend of one of the characters, the main character, right? And the situation there is not so good, and it's really interesting performance, and it's a really interesting pairing of movies. But at the time they were unsuccessful, and at the time I saw them when they came out. Especially, I was very disappointed that Out of Sight did so poorly, because I thought it was brilliant. I thought everything about it was terrific. I thought that George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez had an electric chemistry. And I was really disappointed that it did so poorly at the box office, because I thought it was a picture that more people should have seen. But then over the years, there's just this critical consensus that, yeah, that was a great picture, and Jackie Brown was a great picture. Also, I think it had to do with the fact that Steven Soderbergh's career took off after Out of Sight, because Steven Soderbergh was really going down the toilet when he made Out of Sight. But after that, he did Traffic, he did Aaron Brockovich.
Yeah, well, because before that, he was more or less an independent filmmaker who got a lot of street cred for Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and kind of did experimental odd films for a while through the 90s. And like you said, he had a triple play of Traffic, Aaron Brockovich, and Ocean's 11.
Yeah,
right out of the gate in the early 2000s, and then he kind of got to another level.
Yeah.
So yeah, he did a transformation there, which should be credited to him. In the last few minutes here, I think I can top everybody with the most embarrassing film to say I like something about it.
What?
You are going to be like, oh, why the fuck did you can't even show your face ever again, okay, or your voice. I kind of like parts of Mannequin.
Mannequin? Which one was that?
So Mannequin is Mannequin is from the late 80s, and it involves Andrew McCarthy and Kim Cattrall. And the premise is
yes, I love that picture.
The premise is here's the premise. It's so stupid me telling you this premise, because it is stupid. In ancient Egypt, Kim Cattrall, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Just by starting that way.
Just in ancient Egypt, everything is good. Yeah.
Apparently, an ancient Egyptian woman called Emma, or Ima, or Emmy, as she likes to be called, the princess of the pharaoh, does not want to be wed to whomever. And so she, I guess, asked the gods for some sort of help. And the gods' form of help is to say, okay, we will transform you into this mannequin that Andrew McCarthy creates in a mannequin factory. And he kind of falls in love with you. And he's out in a job, and eventually starts working at the mall where you are located. And because he loves you so much, his love makes you real, but only in front of him. And they're going around the mall having sex. But when when people see him and her together, she turns back into a mannequin. And it's like, what the fuck? It's so stupid. And here's the best part. This isn't even the most exciting premise. You thought, oh, this is so stupid. How can you keep your eyes off it? Well, let me top it for you. Not only is that happening, but G.W. Bailey, not the commandant, but the instructor from Police Academy, is the guard in the mall who's convinced something's going on and is trying to stalk them. And not even that is the best. The best is James Spader is in the movie as the sort of business head of the mall with this greasy slick back hair. He looks like a wiener in the mall, and he's trying to. I can't even explain this. He's trying to basically fuck over the mall's business so he can sell it or get it sold to a rival mall owner so that he could do more. And he does so but I don't know how he does so. But basically,
a horrible picture. Yeah, I love
the mall is survived because Andrew McCarthy and Kim Cattrall make such wonderful window displays with these mannequins.
Yeah.
And you may have think I've talked about the most absurd part. I'm not even finished yet. The best part, there is an overtly, ridiculously, flamboyantly, like this guy would be arrested for his stereotyping. The most flamboyant gay man you've ever seen, called Hollywood Montrose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Meshach Taylor, for those of you who may or may not have remembered this guy. But he plays the faggiest fag you've ever seen, over the top. And he's just walking around. It's like watching a train wreck. This movie is such a train wreck in many ways, but it was popular. It made almost $50 million in the US. There's a sequel to it. A sequel. There's like more plot here we could get, and we can make it stupider. We made it stupider. How could you make it stupider, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. The premise in the second one. How did you get? Okay, you got an ancient Egyptian princess turning into a mannequin. How are you going to top that one? Well, Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. In the Middle Ages. A princess from some middle-aged kingdom falls in love, or no, she's not a princess. She falls in love with the prince. She's a commoner, but the queen doesn't like that. And so to deal with it, she has her sorcerer, said Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, give her a necklace that turns her into a mannequin. How the hell in medieval times is there a store mannequin and that's a curse? You tell me, because I don't know.
Well, the question would apply. How is it possible that in ancient Egypt there were mannequins? You know what I'm saying? Look, that is. I mean, aside from the absurdity of the picture, what's interesting about the picture is that it was a total marketing movie. Okay, I'm looking at I remember watching that movie and I loved it. I thought it was just hilarious. I thought Kim Cattrall was hot. I mean, just totally bangable, right? And the movie was, for all intents and purposes, I'm reading here Wikipedia. The film was made based on the marketing principles of noted Hollywood market researcher Joseph Farrell, who served as an executive producer. The film was specifically designed to appeal to target demographics. McCarthy, though not a star, what's his name? Andrew McCarthy, though not a star, this is right before the Brat Pack pictures, right? Was cast after tests of his films showed that he strongly appealed to girls, the target audience. Yeah, I mean, this was a cash grab. I don't have a problem with the cash grab. That's perfectly fine. And what I find just wildly amusing about Mannequin is that it was, again, like the cutting edge, like what we started off this podcast with. It was entertaining. The whole way through, it was entertaining. Because, it was designed for teenage girls. And you look at certain pictures, like Titanic, for instance. That's the sine qua non. Titanic was designed for teenage girls because James Cameron, he doesn't make movies, he designs them, He looks at movies as basically, how can I use this cool technology to make a shitload ton of money? And he demos his pictures, right? This is the same principle. And I actually don't have a problem with movies that are tested and market tested in order to appeal to me. I don't have a problem with that. And I felt at the time that Mannequin was one of such pictures. that it was a picture designed to appeal. Because, Andrew McCarthy was like very handsome and pretty, but in a non-threatening way, so girls liked him. And Kim Cattrall was just fucking sexy. The guys would appeal. Yeah, I remember going to see this movie. This came out in what, in 84, something like that? 87. Okay.
87, yeah.
I remember going to see this picture and others like it, like in the early, mid-'80s. Like Splash. This is essentially Splash. It's the same goddamn principle in a sense,
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
and this
fun.
movie is like savage. The reviews were savaging.
Oh yeah,
like Leonard Maltin. It's like absolute rock bottom fare, dispiriting for anyone who remembers what movie comedy should be. Washington Post said a film made by, for, and about dummies.
Yeah,
it's
so
like it's like, and it's not. They're not wrong,
No.
but they also miss some of it.
Yeah, they miss
because like there is ridiculous humor in it. Like my favorite is when Andrew McCarthy's former living girlfriend sneaks into the mall and is seeing him making out with Kim Cattrall, but because it's a third party observer, she becomes a mannequin. This woman who's trying to see what the fuck her former boyfriend is doing is with her new boyfriend. And he's taking photos of Andrew McCarthy more or less approaching fucking this doll. And this new boyfriend is laughing at the ex-girlfriend because it's so absurd. It's like, oh, you love this guy who's fucking a store mannequin, and he has this line. It's like, so when you're fucking each other, did he ever tell you, oh, don't stop, Woody? And it's so
well, you know what I like about this picture, or this sort of picture, as opposed to like SJW pictures or the current pictures. See, this picture it's designed to entertain. Everybody who made it, they are consciously trying to entertain you. They're not trying to sell you any ideology. They're not trying to shove any political correctness down your throat. No. They're just trying to amuse you. They are trying their hardest. They are sweating bullets to amuse you. You got to respect that. There's something eminently respectable about people who are going out of their way to do something that will give you pleasure, as opposed to movies, and there are so many today, that try to sell you a message of inclusiveness, a message of this or that or the other. They're trying to convince you of something, as opposed to saying, okay, I'm not going to try to change you. I'm just going to dance and jump around and do whatever is necessary to make you smile. That's more honest to me. There's something fundamentally honest. And even if it's market tested, and even if they say, okay, we're going to aim for this demo and not this other demo, I don't have a problem with that, because it's honest entertainment. Maybe the method they use in order to entertain you of statistical analysis and marketing studies and test audiences and all the rest of it, you can say, oh, that's not real, that's not artistic. Fuck that. They are just trying to entertain you. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's
it gets to the whole. It gets to the premise of why you say, why are certain movies, certain objectively bad movies, entertaining, and it has to do with that earnestness factor of it. Like for example, Ed Wood. When people say Ed Wood is the best, worst film director of all time, it's not that you're going to get zero pleasure out of Plan 9 and you're just watching a train wreck. No, the absolute worst movies. Are like those mid-tier, like middle of the road. They're not sincere.
American
it's like
Beauty.
Cash grab,
American Beauty.
boring movies. With Plan 9 or other, like Zat or Overdrawn at the Memory Bank or Mannequin or others. Mm-hmm. There is an earnestness, and you say like, well, look, they seriously believed what they were doing would work.
Yeah.
Even if, to your point, they were going after a demographic, the act of going after that demographic and what they produced, they sincerely thought it was going to give you something. And even if they fall flat on their face, the sheer weight of that effort and sincere, like, I'm going to try and entertain you. And even if I fall on my face, you appreciate that.
Yeah. That's
what gets people entertained. That's why you have people like me who, enjoy those like So Bad It's Good movies. Like that's what MST3K is kind of based on, and it's why all people love to go to the certain movies to riff on it. You're appreciating that effort on some regard, and I think a lot of the guilty pleasures, particularly the guilty pleasures, underrated. It's like, hey, you guys missed the mark. It's good. For guilty pleasures, for me, it's like I know, yes, I can list all of the things wrong with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nevertheless,
Yeah,
there is.
but also there's even something to be said about pictures that are more personal and political. Because one of the pictures I had on this list was Red Dawn, that I can't make up my mind whether it's a guilty pleasure or an underrated picture. But see, Red
I'll make
Dawn,
it for you. It's underrated.
yeah, Red Dawn, the original one, not the remake. I never saw the remake. I wouldn't even bother.
Right.
The original Red Dawn was deeply personal. It was John Milius made it. He wrote it and
Right.
directed it. Well made, though of a piece with 80s filmmaking. It's not particularly groundbreaking in any sense. The story is quite simple. It's basically the United States gets invaded by the Russians allied with the Nicaraguans and the Cubans, and they invade the United States, and these high schoolers flee to the wilderness, and from there they become this force. They become this basically a guerrilla outfit. They become the Viet Cong, right? And they start attacking the Russians who have invaded, right? And there's like a concentration camp and shit, and it's all very powerful.
You have like the siege of Denver.
Yeah,
and it's because Milius had an honest, earnest. The story of how this was conceived, we'll get into it in a second. I think it's great. You'll love it.
Mm-hmm.
But Milius honestly I want to have a dramatic, like, what would if American boys had to defend their homeland, which they've not done for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
literally, we're like, there's an attack on the soil.
Right.
What would it be like, and how would they, especially if the country couldn't beat it, in and of its own. It's like they're on the down and outs. He really wanted to explore that, and people at the time I know thought like this is red baiting. It's politically incorrect. He almost lost his career as a result of it, which is funny because it's basically saying we would fight the Russians if they invaded us. I'm it's kind of odd that people would get offended by that, but needless to say, Hollywood had left-wing sympathies and vague sympathies for the Soviet Union. There you have it. And the funny thing is, now I'll tell you where the origin of this movie came from, the logic by it. Alexander Haig, the former Secretary of State. He was in Nixon's, I think,
he was
chief of staff before that.
Yeah.
So Alexander Haig, I think was, I think he was like on the board of one of the film studios or related things, whatever reason. And Milius was hanging out with him, and they together conceived of, if the Soviet Union were to invade the U.S., how would it happen? And if they were successful, how would it happen? And they worked together to figure out, well, they'd probably ally with, be it Mexico or Nicaragua. They'd have people coming in from the south and an invasion from the west, and they'd probably try to figure out ways of doing this, that, or the other. So they conceived of it. And you have a real general trying to figure out how it would happen. And the little story I have in it that I always love, it's not directly related to the movie, but it's a great, like, John Milius, Alexander Haig story. When Milius was first met Haig and they were talking, he noticed that Haig was smoking Cuban cigars.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, General Haig, why are you smoking communist products? And Haig took out a new Cuban cigar, lit it up, and say, John, we're burning their crops to the ground.
Yeah, but I think that what's interesting about the Milius picture, the Red Dawn, and by the way, I'm just realizing now that it was originally written by Kevin Reynolds. Kevin Reynolds famously directed Waterworld, and famously got fired by Kevin Costner. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, actually. Anyway, the point is, see, Milius's picture was, how could I put this? It's very personal. It's what he honestly thought, but in a way that was not market tested. Or no, let me phrase this. Why is it that certain pictures that are SJW pictures, and we hate them, we feel that they're cramming ideology down our throats, whereas a picture like this, we don't. We admire it. Is it because fundamentally we get the vibe that the SJW shit is just NPC propaganda, and this is an actual political belief by somebody with flesh and blood?
Well, I also think it's fundamentally human. I mean, there are scenes in Red Dawn where the Russians are not caricatures.
Oh yeah.
The Russians, they're writing notes to their family on, the conditions of what they're dealing with. There are humans in this story, and I think Milius, at the end of the day, is a human storyteller. And even if there is a political position, it's from a guy working it out. He's not like saying like, what is the greatest talking point of my political moment and how am I going to make that? Because Milius's politics are all the fuck over the place.
Yeah.
He's simultaneously an extremely ultra conservative guy who looks up to Teddy Roosevelt and is an anarchistic, like, get me talking about, business executives and their pay, and I'll start sounding like a Maoist, wanting to have show trials and having these men hung for what they've done. In other words, he's basically like us. That's his movies remain fundamentally personal. They're not in the service of anything other than what he's trying to figure out with his own sense of the world. And that's what gives it credit. That's what gives it oomph.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's one of the scenes I remember watching it, and I was shocked. I was just shocked out of my mind when it turns out one of the characters, this group of young guerrillas, right? They become like an effective fighting force, and the Russians know about them, and they're scared of them, and they're trying to hunt them down, right? And what happens is that this group of Russian commandos starts chasing them, and they keep hitting them. They keep getting at them, and the Wolverines, as they're called, they're running away. And it finally turns out, after a few events, it turns out that one of the members, Daryl, I think is the character's name, because I'm looking at the list now. It turns out that he had snuck into town to see his parents, and his father, who was the mayor of the town, had turned him into the Russians, and they tortured him and forced him to carry a transmitter. They didn't. I don't know if he made them swallow it or inserted it somehow surgically or whatever. And so that transmitter was how that they'd found the Wolverines and kept on chasing them, right? And they're like arguing as to what to do and all the rest of it. And then one of the other characters, I think it's C. Thomas Howell, who was like started out as sort of like a boy and then just went psycho. He's just like looking at everybody and just like raises his gun and just blows him away. Just, puts 3 bullets in him. Yeah. Right then and there. Right. And the guy falls on him and leaves the streak of blood, very cinematic, of course. And see Thomas Howell is sort of like, just like sticking out his chest and like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And just like lets him fall to the ground, looks around like, what the fuck is wrong with this fucker? Kind of expression, which was chilling, and you're like, yeah, this guy, he just flipped out, because the C. Thomas Howell character, he was the one who watched his father get killed, and it's just like very human, and it's all very human and messy and heartbreaking.
And it's funny because people accuse this film of being jingoistic, flag waving bullshit, and it's not. Like Milius said, like, I see this as an anti-war movie, and in the sense that if both sides see what the conflict would entail, hopefully it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for Americans to see what a war would be like. The film isn't even that violent. The war shows none of the horrors that could have happened in World War III. In fact, everything that happened in the movie happened in World War II.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a rah rah sis boom ba kind of thing. And in fact, I think in other versions or like scenes that were cut out, like Powers Booth's character, it's even clearer that he's simultaneously right-wing and anti-war. And I think they kind of trimmed that down a bit. But, you do get that vibe with this movie, that this movie isn't about like, hey, we're just going to go kill some Russians.
No.
Which is actually, like one movie I actually do have a moral problem with. We'll get to it at a later episode. Charlie Wilson's War basically does that. If you ever saw that movie.
No, I haven't seen it yet, actually.
That's a movie that celebrates killing Russians, and I'm disgusted with it. But yeah, I mean, that's I think we've really gone over on this one. But what I hope to take away from this, other than it's just being fun, I love talking about shit like this. And I think you got a sense of that. This is one of those episodes where like, hey, look, there's a lot of shit here you probably never even saw or you were told down the grapevine without even thinking about it. Because I see this happen in Critical Consensus all the time, which that's a shit movie, don't bother.
Yeah.
Oh, it's widely understood that The Last Action Hero is not worth your time. bullshit.
Bullshit. Yeah.
We hopefully the enthusiasm we had here and the snippets we've given are giving you worthwhile sense that the shit that people will tell you you'd be embarrassed about watching these things, they're worth it.
Yeah.
And hopefully you find something interesting.
Yeah, so here's like the consensus of pictures that you should see because they're grossly underrated. My picks are Tequila Sunrise, Hudson Hawk, Last Action Hero, Out of Sight, and The Limey. Those are the pictures that I find severely underrated or are not the shitty movies that you've been told. They're actually very interesting, and of course Red Dawn. Now the shitty movies that are a lot of fun, for my money, are Cutting Edge, Mannequin, and Steel Magnolias. Yeah. Those are the shitty movies that you got to go see. Yeah.
Yeah, and for my guilty pleasure, the shitty movies that are worth the time would be mostly your list, but I'd add Masters of the Universe to that. For the underrated, or you probably didn't think about it, incremental to what you just said, because you have a bunch of mine, would be Tango and Cash,
Yes.
Clue,
Yep.
Murdered by Death.
Murdered by Death.
And there was the last. Oh yeah, Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the movies.
Just look up Buckaroo Banzai and you'll find it.
Well, the thing that I also think is important in this conversation, just to sum it up, to tidy it up, is that, I think the advantage that you and I have, and that I think is a good thing to have for everybody, is that we take a picture as it comes to us. We don't pay attention to the critical consensus. We look at the picture, and if it's good, great. If it's not, it's not. We pay attention to what other people are saying about it, but we don't allow our own tastes to be dictated by what other people are saying about it. And what I've noticed a lot of times is that people shit on a picture for no real reason or for the wrong reasons. They shit on the picture because they think it's going to be bad or whatever, but they're not really looking at the picture, okay? Or they think it's going to be uninteresting. And a lot of times these pictures are very interesting, just in a way that is not expected. Like Hudson Hawk, I think it's a really interesting picture. It's just not a blockbuster like it wanted to be, but it's an altogether different picture that, not because of it, is less valuable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think there's just too much tendency for people to it's almost like how folklore gets made. It's like, people think that, the critical consensus is like, this is the worst movie by this guy, or this is a forgettable movie. And they don't really watch it. They have never seen the movie. And even the people making these pronouncements have never seen the movie. Yeah. But it just keeps going and it just perpetuates itself. And there's no reason to do that.
Yes, exactly. And also we see that a lot of times with movies that are hailed as great pictures. And that later you're like, what the hell? Why is this such a great movie? And you're like, it's not a great movie. There are a lot of movies that are kind of like celebrated as masterpieces, or, well, not masterpieces. They're celebrated as the great movies, and they're kind of pathetic. We were actually debating about doing an episode about overrated pictures, but then we're not going to do it because the thing is, it'd basically be shitting on other pictures. And both Benway and I discussed it, and we figured that would be wrong to be doing an episode where we basically shit on other people's work. It would be sort of like a sour grapes kind of like, at least to me, and I think Benway, you as well, feel that kind of episode would just leave a sour taste in your mouth because it's like just crapping on somebody. It's a lot better. It's a lot more fun to elevate pictures that people haven't seen. That say, this is a great picture, go see it, than to say, oh, this is a shitty picture and it got all these Oscars and I don't know why, blah, blah. I mean, that's pussy as well.
What we might do, though, don't take this to the bank. Mm-hmm. We might do an episode where we talk about films that we have a serious ethical or moral objection to, which is different.
That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am in favor of doing that because that's basically taking a picture seriously. Taking a picture seriously and deciding that on a moral level, I can't stomach this picture. That's different. And we're definitely going to do that episode, but we're not going to do a picture of like overrated movies that you shouldn't see. No. It's much more
it's like if we walk because I don't want to walk away with people feeling like, oh, this movie I like that I have frankly a lot of reason to like. These two guys just took a dump on me.
Yeah.
That's just making you. Why would we want to make you walk away regretting that? Like, consensus is on your side.
Yeah,
it's not on our side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because look, I'll tell you a few pictures that I think are just overrated, vastly overrated. American Beauty, The King's Speech, basically most pictures that have won an Oscar, like Spotlight. You know, they seem to me just middle brow, not particularly interesting. And but the thing is, see, if you like those pictures, so what? I mean, it doesn't affect me, and me shitting on them will negatively affect you. So what exactly would be the point of that? No point. But it's much more fun, frankly, because I'm like with you, Benway. I am really looking forward to you seeing Tequila Sunrise. I really want you to see it because I know that you're going to get like a lot out of that picture. You're really going to get behind it, and that you haven't seen the Limey. Dude, man.
Well, dude, I tried to look it up and I can't. Apparently, you can't buy it on Blu-ray at all. It's a really shitty, low quality, maybe even out of print DVD, and I'm not gonna watch it in less than ideal circumstances. But I will try to find it, and I'm pretty sure I can find Tequila Sunrise. So it's on the list. Trust me, it's on the list.
Look, even a shitty copy. Look. For my money, the difference between DVD and Blu-ray is kind of marginal. And also, I don't particularly like the fact that the Blu-ray looks so sharp. To me, it looks video-y. I personally don't care for that look at all. But I suppose that's just my taste. I like things to look more, like they say, cinematic. You know, I like the fact that there are errors, but that's for another conversation. So we've tried the patience of our dear listeners too much. We've gone an hour and 40 minutes. Fuck. This is a long episode, but I hope you enjoyed it. This has been the Coach and Benway podcast. This is Coach Red Pill signing off for my esteemed colleague, Dr. Benway. Dr. Benway, would you like to leave us with a final word?
I want you to really encourage, your sexual prowess and ability to get a woman by turning to the next woman you see and say, let's come to my house and we'll watch Mannequin together. see how many women show up and stick it out when you bring that one up.
If you get a woman and she sticks it out for the whole thing, she's a keeper. Okay. Yeah. And so on that cheerful note, we'll see you next time. Take it easy.
Okay, later.